Amazing. Cool. So, welcome everybody. Today we are going to talk about performer bio, and there is one more person coming in. Yes. Performer bio and music cutting basics. Let's see how it goes with time, but it could take anywhere between 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. So if you need to go at any time, feel free to go. This is being recorded. I will post this online. So you'll find it because I'll post on Instagram, I'll post on YouTube, I'll post everywhere. So don't worry, it will be available for you if you have to go. But if you stay, you can ask your questions as we go. Please type your questions. It's easier. And if we have time at the end, then you can raise your hands and then we can speak. First thing is, I will share my screen. We're going to start with performer bio because actually I taught this topic before in January. So this is kind of a review, but I still want to give people who are coming to this class for the first time the chance to see, the topics that we have touched before. So let me share my screen first with you. I'll share this. There you go. Presentation starting. And there you have it. So, I don't really do slides. I kind of like to have a document where I can just dump everything that I'm thinking. I don't always automatically share this, but because it's in the video, you feel free, you can take a screenshot, no problem. And if someone asks and I remember, then I can share the document with you. I can always download as a PDF. Let's see if I'll remember to do that. So if you are performing or thinking about performing either as a group or as a solo, probably you need to have a performer bio. There is actually more than one type of bio. There is also your act description, for example. And all of those things are useful because when you apply for a show or when you just, like hit someone up because you want to be part of a gig, this is kind of your selling script. So this is your elevator pitch for yourself. And here I will focus first on the one that will sell your stage persona the most. And the one thing that I see that happens with a lot of people is they do it way too generic or way too fluff. And they use so many quality words that well, at least when I read them, I get really lost on what they want to say. And I lose track of the picture that I actually want. So, as a producer for a show, when I read this, I'm trying to imagine what the performer is like in my head. Um, and I have some hints here to help you achieve that with as few words as possible. Because, as you know, everybody's super busy nowadays. So, you don't want to write a 2-page bio. Nobody's going to read that, I promise. So, first one, a good performer bio. Think that you are selling your character, you're selling your stage persona. And you don't have to sound salesy. Nobody wants to sound salesy. However, you want to make people curious. Think about what do you read about other people or about things that make you want to be part of that experience. One of the best ways to improve doing that is simply by reading that yourself from places that you like or from people that you admire and seeing how they do it. Then here I have 5 hints that I like to use. So first, if you can work on that, that would be great, which is have a unique tagline, which is also descriptive and not only fluff. So what I mean is I read a lot of amazing stage presence, great slow burn, makes the T's with capital T, so all of those almost cliche they've been used so much that they don't mean anything anymore. So I know it's always very demanding of us as artists to have to come up with something new all the time. But I would invite you to try and find something that describes you and the way you want to be seen and stick to it. I always give the example of mine. It wasn't me, it was one of my mentors that told me that, and I really loved what she said. She was like, "You are like an upper class bad girl." It's like, oh my God, I love it. So right now I just use that, So my tagline is the upper class bad girl of burlesque. And I thought it was very descriptive because for me, in upper class, it comes with a very glam, like long dress kind of costumes, expensive looking, and so on. And the bad girl comes from my background in floor work. So many times I use a lot of floor work on stage. I do a lot of butt slapping on myself on stage. So that comes a bit from the rebel. Plus, I really like rock and roll. So many of my acts come with a rock and roll twist, and the rebel also comes from there. So those words carry a lot of meaning and describe really well what I like to do on stage. So look for a tagline. You can use, I don't think you can see that, but I use AI to give me not answers, but to help me brainstorm. And if you have your own burlesque community, you can always ask them. You can ask friends, you can ask mentors, you can ask teachers. It might just come up in a conversation, like it did for me. Then do include special skills and gimmicks. So if you do something, if you do fans, if you do tassel twirling, if you do fire, if you do anything that's special or gimmicky about your acts, please mention that. It can also be something that you do naturally. So I have some students, for example, right now, that little by little they are developing quite of a signature, So I have some who keep performing to famous Broadway songs. I have some who really like 50s style. So they don't go 40s, 30s, or like 90s, they go 50s. So if you have something like that going on for you, make sure you mention that. And if you don't, maybe look for it. It doesn't have to be something that you create because you want to, something artificial. Ideally, it would be something that naturally comes to you and you want to do that because it's just something that you love. Oh, okay, I'll go with 90% of those things. They don't come from you artificially wanting to come up with them. It's more about discovering and trying different things to see what you like. And in the end, you will see that you're going to find, a common thread through the things that you like doing for yourself and for your persona and your performing career. Just find out what that is. Yeah, don't make it up. Find out. Number 3, root and heritage. So this is something that I actually see a lot in the US, which is really cool. The UK a little more, and I would like to see that more everywhere because we love diversity in burlesque and we encourage that. So if you know your roots, if you know your heritage, also bring that because we want to bring more diversity on stage. So for me, for example, I'm half Brazilian, half Japanese. So I always make sure that I mention that because I do bring something, from my Asian heritage. And I also have something, from my Latino heritage. Then, if someone ever said something you like and is catchy about you or your acts, mention it. Maybe that's a good start. And fifth, hint to experience or your fire for gaining experience. Um, it's always good for a producer to know that you want to be on that show, or that you haven't been, maybe, in a show and you want to be at that show? What is it that drives you? Like, as I always say, and that's something personal, however, I think it applies to our industry. Blasé is a very boring feeling. Who wants blasé, right? You want to have some passion and some obsession in life, and it's really cool if that comes through in your bio. Not something very bland and very CV like, but something like, okay, maybe they're a new performer, but they have fire in their butt, like they want to do it. Or they've been doing that for a while and they're still onto it. They're still at the top of their game and improving. Those are things that will definitely help you move forward, knowing that you really want to do that. So I wrote here some examples for us. Um, I wrote like a generic and what I would consider better. So, for example, and I didn't give this character a name, but I thought generic burly namey. So the generic version is an established burlesque performer, or is a newcomer burlesque performer, or is a neo burlesque performer. So, well, we know it's a burlesque bio, right? So you don't have to repeat that. You have very few words to get someone hooked into what you are there to show. Don't waste that with the obvious. What I find better is once you know what you're about, just splash it on my face right away. So Jen Burlinamy is your evil fairy godmother on stage. That kind of hooks me right away. I'm like, okay, fairy godmother. I think of Shrek, for example. I think of the fairy godmother, evil fairy godmother. I was like, okay, okay, that's interesting. I want to know more. Especially the first sentence. You want it to be a hook. Then, generic. With their classic burlesque acts, they tease and entice the audience with their strong stage presence. Again, if you are applying, I'm assuming that you either have already strong stage presence or you are working on it, maybe for a newcomer, right? Also, it is burlesque, so I kind of expect the tease. And okay, sure, you're saying you're classic. I think that's kind of cool to say. I want to know if you consider yourself more classic, or if you consider yourself more neo, or gore, or like, where do you stand? That's interesting. But it's very generic said. What I find is better is classic feels like neo under Burly Name's spell. No one can take their eyes off them. And I know it might sound even a little cringe, but it's so interesting. I always tell my students as well that the difference between like the borderline between cringe and um out there, I want to say, is commitment. So if you are committed to your character, it doesn't matter how cringe it might sound, it works. It really works. Even with movement, stage, dance moves, poses, whatever you choose, whatever or whoever your character is, as far as you are committed, it works. So here's the same thing. When I see the better version, this performer is committed. And I understand that they do classic, but they have a little neo twist. So, as I just said, sometimes I read, oh, it's classic with a neo twist. It's ta-ta-ta with a twist. Ta-ta. I read so many times the word twist. So maybe try use something else, right? They have curves to die for and unexpected reveals. Again, right? How generic can you be? Better. It's not every day that you can lay your eyes on 190 meter of pure Latino magic. Okay, okay. I start to form an image in my head of what that performer will be like on stage. Um, they are pure glamour and high end. Have well, I forgot to put a word here, um, and have I don't know, just yet have high end costumes. And again, it's like, okay, cool. It's good to know because, of course, maybe if you do, maybe you don't have very high end costumes. Maybe you have just very, I want to say, creative, very creative costumes, right? That do not necessarily look like you were encrusted in Swarovski yourself or actual diamonds. So it's a good piece of information to have. However, we can tell it in a better way, right? So your audience will need sunglasses. Budget is not really a word when it comes to their costumes. So I think that's much better. And I don't know. I know I wrote it, but it makes me laugh anyway. And the last example I have, Jen Burlini delivers low burn seduction and tease. Besides the word seduction being super overused, I would say that a better version is a master in building tension. Jen Burlinami is ecstatic to become a regular on stages in town. So this is about what I mentioned in the beginning, right? You're talking about your experience and you are making most of it. Either you've been performing for years and you can like list 5 pages, of stage you've been on, but maybe you are coming totally new. And they are both very exciting. I would like to just draw this little point here that definitely, and I always say that it will come as one of my quotes too on Instagram. Make most of the cards you were given. Just play with the cards you were given. There is an advantage, of being a newcomer, which is nobody knows you. You're totally free to go crazy and do whatever you want. There is also advantages in being an established performer. You are already known and you have a career and something. So look for the things that will help you and think in a way that will help you. Thinking about like, oh, but I'm a newcomer and I don't have much experience. I'm not sure how to do it. I promise you, your will is your best weapon. And that was the one thing for me. If you don't know me, and that's how I started working, like backstage and meeting, like really established and famous performers who ended up becoming my friends and my network, was simply by be willing. I didn't know how to do my makeup. I didn't know how to wear heels. I had no costumes. All I had was my smile and my will to do it. And it took me really far. So I recommend everybody to do that. Right, this little bit here is good. Let me just have a look. Okay, nobody wrote anything, so I'll keep going. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments because I will read them. And I see two types of bios because you might be asking yourself, sure, I'm talking about, like my stage persona, but sometimes we also need to talk about our real life bio, right? Maybe someone also in festivals, right? They are interested in knowing how long you've been performing, where you come from, where you were based, and etc. And for this type of bio, what I recommend is think like it's an actual CV. But of course, your CV that is related to performing and your performing career. So, first thing is keep it keep it factual, but do not ignore your achievements. So if you have won an award, or if you have performed at a certain stage, or even relevant things that are not necessarily things that people normally remember to put there, like in point number two. If you've done, if you've worked as a kitten, volunteered at a show, took workshops with certain, people, belongs to a certain studio, take classes for however many years and etc. All of those things, should be part of your bio, especially at the beginning, because maybe you're like, okay, so I'll say, here is generic bully name me, and I've been in burlesque for, I don't know, 2 years. Right. Maybe that's all you think you have. But I'm sure that if you dig a little more, you can find some things. You can say, for example, fascinated by the world of burlesque since I saw my first show in 2000, whatever. I've been to several shows as an audience member, and recently I volunteered at this show, or I was a kitten at whatever show. And by the way, that's also an invitation for you. If you plan to be part of the burlesque community, really just get in there. Yeah, don't wait to be called. I'm pretty sure, because that happens here with me, there are people in your city or town that, unless you live somewhere very, very, very small, but maybe then you start the scene. But if you live somewhere where there is maybe a studio, I'm pretty sure they need help. They need help with kittens, someone just saying hello to people at the door, or maybe someone checking tickets. I'm sure they need help. And all of those things will not only start to get you noticed and put your name out there, but will contribute to your future, burlesque CV. Um, then number three is, if you have any background in performing arts, also talk about it. Maybe you have Latin dance, heels, acrobatics, gymnastics, anything really, modeling, photography. That there is so much that you can say about yourself that can contribute to having a more interesting bio. And number four, reasons why you are in burlesque can also be added. We have a lot of performers, famous performers that you probably know, that came from maybe they had some kind of health issue that made them want to come. Many people went through a lot of things in life, and then burlesque, it is an outlet for them to kind of own their own stories and etc. If you are comfortable sharing a little bit of that, that will also help others connect with you. So your, let's say, real life bio is also about connection. So if you want to, let's say, apply to be a kitten at a famous festival or something, and you want to help, that can help you and help the producer understand why you want to do that. Especially in burlesque, where I also, especially as a studio owner, I always make sure that I bring the best people in my little bubble where I have my students, and I want to keep everybody safe, right? So knowing that you're not just a stranger who wants, to be backstage with everybody I know, but you are someone who wants to be part of this world, will give you a lot more chances. And plus, it will be a great experience, by the way. Great. So I think that's what I have for bios. I would encourage you to play with that. Don't worry too much about it, as in, like, this is the last bio you're ever going to write. No, 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 no. Remember, my grandma used to say that the only thing there is no comeback in life is death. And some people may even argue that. So you write your bio, and if you don't like it, you change it, and you write another one and another one. So totally up to you. So don't worry too much. Play with it, and the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. It's like a skill like any other. The more you write, the better you're gonna be at writing. And definitely do not delegate the whole thing to AI. So if you're stuck, sometimes I ask, like ChatGPT, oh, can you give me another word? Or you can even just Google that. You don't even need AI. Another word for strong, or another word for tease, or and etc. Maybe you just need a little brainstorming, and that will get you going. Right. So we'll just check here if there are any questions, and then we're gonna move on to music. So I think I'll keep in the same recording. Maybe if I want to do two, I'll just cut in editing myself. And let's go to music. So, music cutting basics. And I called it basics because Audacity is a very powerful tool. And let me also stop here recording stop sharing for a second. Many of the software, they're like really, really powerful. And they have a lot of things, for people to do if you really dive into it and so on. But it can be very daunting if you don't know how to do the basics. And what I'm going to show you now is really just the basics to get you going. But if you want, I'm pretty sure you can do courses online, or you can find even, like free YouTube videos that can teach you in depth, how to use those software. I really like Audacity because it's very intuitive and it's also free. I'm pretty sure there must be a paid version, or I don't know, maybe it is totally free all the time. However, I use the free version, and it helps me do everything that I can that I want to do. If you grew up like me, in the 90s or later, you will probably be able to use that with ease because it has all of the things that we grew up doing. So it's like cut, copy, select, drag, drop, all of those basic computer things. And I always use that on my computer. That's important because I know there are some other apps, that can cut music on the phone, but I find that Audacity does a better job. And however, you have to use that on a computer. So let's move on to that. So for this one, I'm gonna share actually my other screen, so my Audacity screen. So I'll just have a new one, so clean one. So when you know what? I think I'll share my entire screen. Yeah, because then I can go back and forth as I need. I will share my audio because you're gonna need it. And there, there you go. So now you can see my whole screen. Yes. So this is Audacity. I just opened a new one. So when you first open it, it looks like this. First thing you're gonna need, of course, is your music, your tracks. And I want to quickly touch, like good music, for burlesque. Also, if you are new here, if it's the first time you are watching one of my videos or one of my classes, let me just find here my book. And not in projects, home. And then there is a whole chapter in my book where I talk about good music. And yes, there you go. So let me search for it. It's easier. Book. I think I saved this. There you go. There you were. Yes. So there is this book, and by the way, if you are one of my students, you have access to that. If you are not one of my students, you can just buy the book separately. And here is the music part. Great. So basically, some of the things that I always tell people when they're choosing music for their act are here. And I just have this here in the background so that I remember. Okay, I didn't forget to say that. I will say the main thing is make sure it is not super convoluted. That's the minimalist approach. I personally would stick to either one song or maybe two songs, not more than that. Um, I find it, unless like you're very seasoned, you know exactly what you're doing. It's very complicated to do a lot of songs, and as an audience member, I feel every time the song changes, I feel like something changes in the vibe. And that's not necessarily cool. I kind of want to be drawn into your world and your story and stay there, for your whole act with you. And if the song keeps changing, it's like, okay, something is happening, and then something changes, and then something changes. And as an audience member, I don't enjoy that too much. So, having said that, I'm working on an act now that has very complicated piece of music. So just make sure whatever you choose is intentional. Yeah, all that. I don't want to stay here for 20 minutes. So Um, I would say try and stick to 4 to 5 minutes or even less. You don't need 15 minutes. You don't need longer than that. Again, there is always exceptions to the rule. I have one of my favorite acts is like 8 minutes. But also, I can never perform this act at some places because they are looking for 4 to 5 minutes. As you know, Burlesque Hall of Fame is 4 minutes tops. So, if you want to do that, maybe you are doing yourself a disfavor by making an act way too long. If your plan is to be applying, to festivals and so on. Um, Only the musician who created the song owns the song. So don't get too caught up into, oh my God, someone else is doing that song too. If it's something you love, just go for it. Yes, it is harder when you're using a song that everybody else has already used, or especially a song that either has a signature act already by someone really famous to it, even if it's outside the burlesque, or if it's a movie song that's super recognizable, or from a video clip, that it's super recognizable. Unless you're paying tribute to that, it's very difficult to detach yourself from that. So think twice and choose intentionally. I believe we perform better to music that makes us feel something. So I would pick a song that still fits, like what I believe is good song for an act, but it's also music that I really enjoy. And the more you enjoy the music, the better it is because you will have to listen to it 1,000 times anyway. So yes, do it. Choose something you really like. Um, right. I would personally, again, remember, all of this is my personal opinion anyway. Choose something that probably has lyrics to them, or very clear highs and lows if you are going for something that's just instrumental. That will make your life much easier when you're choreographing, especially lyrics, because lyrics can give you a lot of ideas when you're choreographing. When you hit something that the singer says that's very obvious in the audio, and then the audience can hear them, and you can do something the audience understands, you are translating the music, that really hits super nicely and reads beautifully on stage. At the same time, that remember, as a performer, it's your job to tell your audience how to listen to the music. So you're going to be the translation to that, right? You're going to be the face of that song that you pick. And if it has lyrics, it will make your life easier. But it doesn't have to. You can work with instrumental. I'm working with instrumental right now. Some of the most beautiful acts I've seen, they have pretty much instrumental. So just make sure, again, If I had to choose one word for it, would be intentional. Um, don't be afraid of using songs that wouldn't naturally fit. So don't stay with like, okay, I'm doing classic burlesque, so I should stick to like classic bump and grind songs or postmodern jukebox or those things. As you know, there are many really cool acts. Like you can have a classic act to rock and roll or hip hop or tango. Like it could be really cool, actually. And I would, in fact, encourage you to try that. It will make your act more unique, more easy, like to sell. And when I say sell, I don't mean like in a bad way. I mean that it will get you more gigs if you have something that's more unexpected to people and that doesn't blend in. Imagine someone receiving 200 applications, for a festival or a gig, and then they all doing like Pussycat, like the song, like it's like, okay, there is a moment, and I did that once. I was helping select acts for a show, and at a moment they just all blend in, so you definitely need the punch, kind of just like in your performer bio. Um, I try to stay away from songs that are very repetitive unless it's shorter. So if they repeat 2 or 3 times, that's max, like probably you don't want to repeat more than that. But you also have to be very creative with your moves and very on point on stage so that people don't get too comfortable watching you. You want to keep them at the edge of their seats. One hint that I give people is look for different versions of a song because you can really spice it up. And I will show you on Audacity, for example. You can spice it up by having a version of a song to start and then the same song, but a different like rock and roll version or a musical version of the same song to end. That could be really cool as well. Then I give some hints, on how you can, what you have to do after you have chosen your song. And this one here, I want to make it a bit larger so you can actually see how to get your music. I encourage everybody to find your music at a place where you pay the artist who created the music. So I really suggest Quobus, however you pronounce that. Maybe it's Quobus. Because I find almost every song that I want there. Some people sell their music on their own websites. And it's really, sometimes you have to buy the whole CD, but most of the time you can buy one track and they are not expensive at all. So they will also come with better quality. So as much as you can, I really encourage you to do that. Remember to take notes of the name and the artist because your producer will need it. I have some websites that I like to use for royalty-free music if you're going for something that you create yourself. Audacity also allows for that. Most of the time, you still have to cite, whoever created. And also for sound effects, there are other websites where you can find it. And I said other people because I looked at number 5. And I will teach you today the basics, but you can also get other people to do the editing for the music for you. So you can have someone on Fiverr, or maybe someone who works with that. You can always get someone to help you cut and edit your music. So let me move on to our Audacity. So here we are. So this is what it looks like when you first open it. You go and you used all of these hints and you found your music. You went to whatever website you can, you buy your music, you download it to your computer, and there you go. Audacity will take pretty much every format of music out there. Music, not MP4, if it's a video or something you want, so you still have to convert it. And all you have to do is drag and drop. So I'll just look here. Let me look for, let me see in downloads because I did this class also. I want to look for music. Let me just find something here. Anything just to give you an example. Image, document. Oh, that's a lot. MP3 audio. So I'll just get some music here. Let's see. I have Golden Eye. I think that's the one I was playing with last time I taught this class. I have all my student songs here too. So I will just, let's say I want to play with Golden Eye. I will just click here and drop on Audacity. Let me just pick a second one to, I have, that's Life is one that I was just playing. We did a group act to that. Green and Barrett. Yeah, this one is interesting. Now let me go with I'm a Good Girl. I know, right? I love this song too. Okay, because those are two like famous songs, so it's easier. So when you first drop it, it's gonna look like this. First thing that I do is I just make it smaller so it looks more friendly, right? It kind of looks a bit overwhelming when you look at first. Then what you see here is kind of a picture of what the song sounds like, which I find actually pretty cool. So literally where you see lower, it's like lower parts of the song, maybe just instruments. Where you see higher, it's either a voice or there is a dominant instrument there. So when you see the little hand, it's pretty much like drag. So you can click, the hand would even do the little grabbing, and then you can move. I'm just moving I'm a Good Girl because I want to be able to listen. When you just click, it will play. So you can see how it's almost as if you had a picture of your song. So I find that really cool. So my first example to you. So let's say, let me just get rid of this one for a second now. Let's say you just want to make your song slightly shorter. Like Golden Eye is already short. Only 3 minutes 30. But let's say you want to do it shorter anyway. Very important on Audacity, unless the song is on stop, it will not allow you to do changes. So if I play this song here and I click on pause, you see it will not allow me to do stuff. You will have this little stop sign there. So if you want to edit your song, you have to be on full stop. Now let's say that I want to cut the song. So ideally, you want to look for either where the song is already doing that for you, because then it will sound more natural, or you want to find some counts that will help you. And I'm not doing the counts today. I did that in the last class. However, one hint that I can give you is if your song sounds a little off, it probably means that you cut it out of an 8 count. So, as you know, we count the songs in eights mostly. Of course, there is a lot of exceptions, especially in jazz and etc. But we usually count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we just do that quickly here on Golden Eye, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, 3, 7, 8, 3, 7, 8, 1, 3. So you see how it repeats every time there is the ta 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 ta. It's a 1. So if you cut your song on 6, usually we can tell, like your ears, your audience will be able to tell that something is off. So let's say I want to cut the song shorter. First place I would look for is this here. Because you see how it's already, it is fading out naturally there. So it's probably a good option. I really like to use Zoom here, zoom on Audacity. And then let's just have a listen. On your side. That sounds like a great place to cut. So I would probably just have it here. And then you want to go to edit. And then you go to audio clips, split. I always like to use a split because then I will separate. It's like having two tracks now. So I'll move this one away and let me listen. Right. Now you see how it ends a bit off, right? So what I would do to make it sound nicer, I would select the last, I don't know, few seconds. Always trust your ear. Huh? Listen a lot. It's really select. I clicked and I dragged. You go to effect and click on fade out. So your song will go a little more smooth in the ear. And let's see here. Yes. You see how much smoother the ending was, right? So split and fade out. Great friends. Now, if you want to, and again here, your third best friend on Audacity, undo. So you can undo everything, back to normal. Let's say you didn't like it. Okay. Now let's find a spot to cut that is different from an obvious part. So let's say I want to cut at around, I was like, okay, my song has to have 2 minutes, let's say. So let's see what is here. Great. 2 minutes sounds horrible because it's in the middle of a phrase. So let's play with that. So probably I would cut it before the singer starts, the new phrase. So let's listen a little before. Feel his presence in the crowd. Other girls, they gather around him. Yes. Also, the voice, usually it's in phrases, and it's also usually similar. It will also more or less be on the counts of eights, normally, especially with kind of famous and pop songs. So if we go here, I'm looking for the last phrase that Tina sings. Other girls, they gather around him. Right. So it's around him. And then what I do is this. I will play. And I will watch here down where it is in the minutes. You can also pause that if you want to see that. Move through smoke and mirrors, feel his presence in the crowd. Oh, there is more. Other girls, they gather around him. Yes. So you see it's about 1 minute 58. So I come with my little cursor here and then I'll click here. Yeah. Remember, you have to stop the music then. Edit, audio clips, split. Great. Let's just have a listen. Great. So she doesn't start the next phrase. It feels like the end of an 8. Same thing. I'll pick a few seconds. And then I will go to effect, fade out. And then let's see what it sounds like. By the way, if you see this little gray, darker gray on top, it will loop there if you click here. So what I do, I just click out and then I play something. Other girls, they gather around him. Yes. So you see how that was a smoother, like ending if I had to end my song at like just before 2 minutes. So these are the basics. Now let's add a second song here. So let's say you have 2 songs, right? I'll go back here, undo. Yes, I don't even want this selection. Yes, there you go. I'm a Good Girl's back. I will zoom out just so we can see everything. And then the same thing, right? So let's say that I want to have a song that starts with Good Girl. I'll just do something crazy just so we can play a little with that. And then it goes into Golden Eye, and then it finishes with Good Girl again. So, we have here two tracks, and you can have as many as you want. Do be careful here not to push the song before it starts. So I can definitely add a track. I add always a stereo track because they're all stereo. There you go, because we're gonna need this. So let's say I want to start the song with Golden Eye, change to Good Girl, and then back to Golden Eye. So how about let's find a place to finish, like to stop Golden Eye.
Feel his breath, golden eye. I found his weakness, golden eye. He'll do what I
Just
please.
before the chorus of the song.
Golden eye, no time for sweetness.
Let me push a little more here.
You'll never
Right.
know.
This is the chorus of the song.
This will bring him to his knees.
Yes, there you go. So again, I paused on that moment. See here where that is. If you want to zoom, I usually prefer to zoom so I can have a better look of where I want to cut it. And then I try to really hit there where it should be. It doesn't have to be fully perfect. Okay, we can fix that. Edit, audio clips, split. Always split. There you go. Let's just have a look. Great. Then let's say I want to start Good Girl here. I will move this golden eye to my other track. Stop that. I want to, let me just make it smaller. And let me bring you here to the other track. Yes, I just click and drag and drop. So I want you to start at 0. If it does those arrows, it means that your song is starting before 0. So you make sure you are at 0. There you go. And now I want to start Good Girl, and it sounds like this right now. Which is pretty bad, right? Like, imagine someone watching this and like, oh my God, what's happening? So what I will do is the following. So first, make sure we have a little bit of space here. So we want to do a little fade out. Let's see if that's going to work. As always, as I said before, keep playing. It's a skill.
Bring him to his knees.
Right. Now I want to start Good Girl, but also maybe I want a little fade out. Let me just find where. Yeah, maybe up to here. So I'll select this. And instead of a fade out, I'm looking for a fade in. Right. So it goes from lower to higher, and the fade out goes from higher to lower. And then let's see what it sounds like. And then instead of having here, so when you see this yellow line, it means it's exactly there. I want to have a small intersection. Tiny seconds. Let's see what it sounds like.
A kiss will bring him to his knees.
Still sounds off because, of course, they're two very weird songs. But music-wise, it sounds pretty decent. It's not like hot, cut, and another song starts right away. It has a little bit, okay. We feel the song is going, oh, something else is starting. I would even maybe push them slightly more here. Let's see.
Kiss will bring him to his knees.
Yeah, I think it's even better. So this is a little trick that I really like. You have the song fading out and the song fading in is slightly overlapping. That will help, your ear get like, our ears will notice there is something happening in the background before something else starts. Right. And then I would do the same. So let's say that you want to finish with Golden Eye. I would probably bring it here and do a similar thing. So
You'll never know.
it's so weird. I don't know why I picked this tune, but you get the gist. You're probably not doing that with songs like this, but I would do the same thing. So I would probably choose a little bit like this and if the song already fades out, like you see here, you want this to be over the overlap. So you can even cut this if you want to help you. And you can always select and just press delete. And I'll do the same thing here, maybe slightly longer. I'll do a fade in, and then I'll have this two slightly overlapping here. Let's see. It'll probably sound weird. Yeah, it will never sound good because these two shouldn't be together anyway. But you get the gist. Now, what I want to do is the following. You can see here how Good Girl is much louder, right, than Golden Eye.
The bag is and I feel here.
Especially when it changes from one to another. So that can happen a lot as well if you are picking very old songs. You know, if you're picking original Mary Monroe songs or something like that, because of course we didn't have the technology we have today for equalizing songs. And if you have a live version of a song or etc. So the way I do that, and I find the simplest way, is you can do the following. So for this song here, what you see here on the left is like how loud the song is. So I will just do here louder. And again, I will trust my ears. So let's see.
Golden night, no time will bring him to his knees.
Compare the loudest with the loudest there. Yes, I think it's much nicer. And you can also do that to the other songs. You can make the song less loud, for example. And then this is louder.
Golden above sunset
And this one is not as loud. Now I think it's the other way around. But so you can play with that. So you can make the song louder or less loud so that they are kind of equalized. And of course, I want to show you how to extract that. So let's say you worked on your song and like, okay, it's ready, you know, like, what do I do now? So you come here to File and you click Export Audio. And I think that's why I think there is a paid version to Audacity, because it will only export MP3 once you have a paid version. But WAV or WAV, whatever you pronounce that, is just as good. So you just pick the name and then let's say Mish Golden Girl. And then you can save that anywhere you want. I don't change anything else. I keep stereo and etc. And then you export, and then your song will show up on your desktop or whatever folder you choose. That's the very, very basics. I just want to give you maybe, you know, like, I think I'll finish in about 10 minutes and then we can have questions. I just want to quickly show you the power of that when you continue playing with it. So this is just if you have songs to merge, if you want to cut, you want to copy. So for example, if you have
the dress is Chanel, the shoes YSL, the bag is.
You can do the same things that we did here. You can just select and then you can copy. So Control C, you put here and Control V. I literally did Control C, Control V. Yeah. So then you can have a song repeating, and also you can repeat another part of the song if your song is just short and you just want to repeat something in the middle. That easy. Now let me show you my current project, because in this one I'm using not only mini tracks, I'm also using some effects. So this one will go. I'm not saving this one. Don't need to save. So this is my current project, and you can see that it's a very much more complicated thing. So what I did here is I have several different songs, and they have several different levels. And you can do that when you want to add layers and make sure that your song kind of goes back in the end. So I wanted a song that started very whimsical and very, I'll play it for you. It sounds very Asian because I'm working on a heritage song, you know, for my heritage. I'm half Japanese. And at the very end, I wanted to come back. So I have my whole story happening. And then at the end, I want to bring back what was in the beginning, so I do a full circle, right? So to do that, sometimes people ask also, how do I search for music? And I have two pieces of, well, I don't say pieces, I have two hints for you. First hint is Google it like in an interesting way. So if you're looking for a certain kind of music, it could be, let's say, when I search, for example, ominous Japanese music, or look for instruments, like crazy or soulful guitar riff, use a language that you already know how to use in order to search for things that might simply happen. Once you have that, listen to a few, and most players, like Spotify or YouTube or Google Music, will give you suggestions, like based on the things you're listening to. So just go down the rabbit hole, you might find something. That's one way. And another way is live. And sometimes we get so focused and so into, like this world and our art and everything we're doing, that we forget that doing art is also about life, right? So the more that you live, the more experiences you're going to have and the more things you're going to have. So maybe you are traveling somewhere or in a bar with friends and some music plays and you're like, oh my God, this song, that's it. I love it. Or maybe you're at a friend's house and then they will play something. You're like, what song is that? That's the song I want. So it can happen by accident. And actually, I have a third hint, which is don't worry too much. Don't wait for everything to be perfect so you start. I also say that a lot to my students. It has to be born before it can walk. It's like a baby, you know. While it's in your belly, it will never be able to breathe or walk or grow. It has to come out of your belly so that it can start doing those things. Maybe you're gonna find the perfect music for your act after you have done your act 2 or 3 times. It can happen. And suddenly you're like, well, actually, I want to do this act to another piece of music. You can, you can change. So don't worry too much about that. Now, when I was doing this one, I wanted to use flute, but I also wanted to use this. Oh, I should know that. There is another instrument here playing, and I was so in love with this, but at the same time, I wanted to use flute. So I was like, what will it sound like if I have both together? So I did. So I'll play this for you. Start with the, I love it so much. Listen to the other instrument that we'll get in. So some of the things I did here was not only to cut, there were some pauses with the flute because of course it's a flute. So the person playing has this breathing moments in between. So I cut some of this. I wanted to add here the second instrument when the first also started. So I was looking for that connection. Here a bit more ahead. So you see how it has 3 layers actually forward. Here it's when the song picks up. I cut here the middle as well. And here there was a whole section between the instrument and the person who saying who. And I cut all of that because it would be too long otherwise. And I added the flute back again. So there is a point in this song that you're going to be back to listening to the flute as well. So we circled back. So that's here I had to play a lot with what I just told you last. So it was like how loud the songs were, because At a point, the flute was too low and I couldn't hear it. And then here, I did a bit. When you're playing with instruments sometimes they can be used as background. So the song you see on top is kind of my main thing happening, and the background is still there to make sure that everything is fully connected. So here it gets a bit darker in my act. And so there is this is a crucial point that I also wanted to point out. When you have a peak, like something important happening on your act, you want to make sure that the music is also more clear at that point. So there is one point here, there is pretty much no intersection, or just this intersection here, that's a very strong one, because this is a very important point in my act. So then I don't want to have a layer and a layer and a layer. I want to keep one focus point. The same way you would when you are performing and creating the movement and the choreography. You don't want to have too many distractions. You want a focus point. And then, of course, the song is going on after, because there is a very clear focus. Before it turned on, and here there was, I created this very smooth connection. And here is something that I want to circle. So I brought back here later the flute. So it brings you back to the beginning of the song. This is just kind of to show you what is possible to do with Audacity. You can also, if you have a sound effect, let's say a thunder or a creaky, sound, or a door opening or steps or something like that, you can find all of those and you can add those to your tracks kind of the same way, like opening more tracks and then playing with their position and so on. Make sure you really trust your ears, because they will be able to tell you whether you are on the right track or not. If something sounds off, it will probably be off. And one hint about that, when you're very used to your song, maybe you want to have a friend or someone else to share your song with, because sometimes when you know your song really well, let me just, I lost you. There you go, Google Meet. So when you're very used to your song and you cut it, for you it might sound off, but for someone who doesn't know the song, maybe it won't. So ask someone else as well to listen to your song and tell you, okay, does anything sound off to you? Great. So I don't see anything in the chat. But I think we can now open for questions, because I think I said everything. Let me just have a little look in my document. Sound effects, zoom in, zoom out, Audacity. Yes, no, I said everything. So if you want, so I'll stop the recording here, because then if anyone wants to stop the recording.